What's up, guys? This is the Board Game Roamer. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this playthrough of Adventuria, the Dark Eye card game. In this particular playthrough, we're going to play something a little different. We're going to play Inn of the Black Boar. This is a recent release. It's very different than the previous titles. The Adventuria, great game, great system, sort of a deck builder. I don't know if I'd really necessarily consider it a deck builder, but it's really good. I've really enjoyed the other titles, and it is a kind of like Magic in that you can duel each other with these, or you can do it in adventure mode, and that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to do adventure mode. However, in previous Adventuria titles, the way the adventure mode worked is you started with your heroes. They have their own deck. You basically go through kind of like a prologue, and it sort of sets up a battle, essentially, and modifies your stats a little bit based on whether you take damage or you get some fate points or things of that nature. And then you have some cards, environment cards and such, that modify what you can do during the attack. You have leaders that you usually have a leader that you have to take out before you can take out the henchmen, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a narrative, right? And there's a story. And Adventure Inn of the Black Boar is very similar to that. However, what they've done is they have added a dungeon aspect to it. And so what that has done is it's really changed the way that the story unfolds. Okay. So basically what happens is you start kind of with a prologue, just like you normally do, and you have kind of chapters just like you normally do. The Inn of the Black Boar has four chapters, and so you're going to go through, to tell the whole story, all four chapters, but you go through the prologue like you normally would, but then there's a dungeon phase, kind of a dungeon exploration, right? And it's going to have you. The book's going to walk you through that. And so, what's different about this is your hero decks. You basically take out all but 10 cards in each hero deck. Now, the book does have. I'll show you this. It does have a way to do this, to customize the decks, right? Just like we normally have been able to do that before. Right, so this will tell you, for example, here how to customize the decks, or you can do individual cards. So what you create is you create what's called a quote loot card pile, and what that is a. So let's actually just go down to the table for that, because this may be a little bit easier to explain this way. All right, here we go. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a custom deck. Can't really see that, can you? A custom deck of loot cards, right? So you can see right here, this is the list of all the heroes and the loot cards. So you're going to build this loot deck with a combination of cards from the heroes and a combination of other cards from another set of specific cards that are that come within the Black Boar. The important part to remember is that in the end, right, you can have a little bit thinner deck, right? But you can have a combination of regular cards, and then you have a combination, some cards like this one, for example. So this is a rusty throwing knife. Not great, right? And you'll see it's got some stuff here about if the damage die shows a 4, and shows a 4, 5, or 6, you have to discard it. All right? So they're not great cards. Okay? And so what happens is, as you progress, right, as you progress through the story, you are potentially going to be finding your cards, right, in the dungeon as you're trying to escape. Because essentially you're going to have to escape the dungeon. All right, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the first chapter, and we're using 2 of the new heroes, Nerex Dahl and Hagen Mallow. That's at least how I'm going to pronounce it. Negan, as you can see, is Grom Merchant. Ranged and magic is okay. Horrendous melee. And then he is compatriated, if that's a word, by Hagen. Oops, that's the wrong card. By Hagen, who is more of a warrior, not really a tank per se, but more of a warrior, and so that's what he's got. So what we did for setup, because this is different, and I do want to show this to you, is that we took, and this again is in the rule book exactly how you set this up. And there's friend cards and enemy cards, and there's a set of group equipment cards that's completely different to this, and torches, light, darkness, how you make tests and such. I'll probably mess up, but I'm going to show this to you anyway because I think it's a pretty awesome game. Dungeon exploration. So I have gone ahead and done this so that when we do the playthrough, we won't have to take the time to do it. But you're going to create a dungeon deck, right, for the dungeon exploration, and it's going to consist of some cards here that tells you how to build. They're called alarm cards. Well, they're dungeon cards. You build the dungeon, and then you have an alarm card. And so an alarm card is basically, basically you have a stack of cards here. There's 5 of these. All right. Now, you see I'm only fanning out 4 because I've already built this deck. But you take and you build this dungeon deck, and essentially think of it kind of like a series of events where you have to make decisions. Some of the decisions are challenges, which is everybody's got to make a roll. Some of the decisions are individuals. They can choose to make the roll or not make the roll. Some of them are just straight up traps where we're going to take damage. And then some of the cards are treasure, so we're going to get some rewards, which is very important because as you progress, there's different points in the game where you need to upgrade your deck, because what you have other than your basic attacks is pretty much nothing. So you're going to need to be getting that loot to increase your stats. Or increase your, I say increase your stats. Increase your stats via the deck, right? So, that's where we're at with that. I've read through this, I've watched a playthrough of this, so I'm going to give it a go. I do want to give a quick shout out to Ulysses Spiel for the awesome game, obviously, but also to a guy named Jeff. He's on YouTube. That's his channel name. It just says, just search for Jeff. He does a lot of playthroughs, and what I like about Jeff is that Jeff is just another guy. He's not out to make money. He's not out there to get famous. He's not out there to do anything but just share his passion for games and to share some games that may not always get covered, especially war games, it seems like, or other games that just not a lot of people necessarily cover. He doesn't, he's not a cult of the new guy. And, he does it in like 10-minute, 10 or 12-minute, 15-minute usually, segments with a camera that he just moves like a GoPro. And, he's just, I just really enjoy watching the channel because he's doing it because he loves the hobby. And that's why I do what I do. And he's done very well. And I really enjoy watching his playthroughs. And so I've been watching several of his lately. He's doing Cloud Spire right now just because he likes it. But I've seen a lot of games that I have never heard of, and don't know that I could ever play, right? Because it's just because I have so many other that I want to do. But anyway, he's just a really cool guy. So what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go through, the Black Boar. We're going to go through the prologue, and we're going to see what happens. So what I'm going to attempt to do, just out of the way for a second, I'm going to attempt to do is I'm going to attempt to do everything on this mat, I hope. All of the hero cards that I play are going to be over here by the respective heroes. I'm going to put the discard over here to the side where you're not going to be able to see it. This is going to be their draw deck, and then I'll put their hands down here underneath where I can see it. So this adventure mat did not come with Enter the Black Boar. It was an optional buy, which I grabbed a hold of during the Kickstarter for Enter the Black Boar that just recently came. I did not do an unboxing. There's several, I think, unboxings out there, and realistically, I mean, it's just a thing full of cards and a few tokens, right? The meat of the game is just a different gameplay. So we've done that. Now, I did go ahead and I've sorted a bunch of stuff out of camera up here that you can't see with the different stacks of cards and stuff. So hopefully it will be a little bit quicker. And so, yeah, I think that's it. Wow, that's like 12 minutes of rambling almost. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started. All right. That's just those are just cards for this first chapter, kind of like these cards, right? Some of the stuff I've set out, it's going to call for that later, but I went ahead and set out, and like I said, I constructed this event deck ahead of time with the alarm card. I don't know what it is, which is why I didn't show you all the names on those arms. The only thing I know for sure is it's not Neanderthals. But I have all the other, henchman decks set out here, right? Already sorted by type so that I can pull those out pretty quick. Okay, on to the show. All right, let's put this over here so you can see a little bit. And, let's get started. All right, the Inn of the Black Boar, Prologue, the Inn. I'm going to go ahead and read the flavor text. And I thought about not doing that, but I mean, that's what makes this game. So if you want to play this and you don't want to hear the story, this is probably not the playthrough for you. I don't want to ruin it for you. So spoiler alert up front. The story part of this you're going to see. So just be warned. And I will probably mispronounce some of this, so also be warned about that. Groton Fells, 996 BF. Slowly, the red golden sun sinks toward the horizon, and bluish twilight envelopes the land. Soon the night will come and finish your exhausting ride. In front of you lies this day's destination, the market town of Groton Fells, in the foothills of the Kosk Mountains. You cross fertile farmland and pass the first thatched huts. Down in the small green valley, you can see the half-timbered houses of Groton Fells. You accompany Father Carolus, a cloth merchant from Havana, whatever. See, that's why I said I was going to mispronounce it. To buy cloth and silk at the annual market in the Angbar beyond the Kosk Mountains. The journey from the Havana to here was long and exhausting, and desperately you need some rest before crossing the Kosk Mountains tomorrow. Each hero makes a survival roll. All right, so survival roll. Let's go to the dice tray. Bing, bang, boom. So, and of course, the way that I've got that, it's covering up his card there. All right, survival roll. So we're going to take. Oh, and by the way, Nirax is the first player character, as that's what we're going to designate. Who we're going to designate as first player in case there's something that comes up with that. I don't think there will be, but just in case. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put these up here is what I'm going to do. Hold on just a second. Kind of doing some stuff off screen that you can't see. There we go. That's good. All right, so we're going to make Nirax purple, and we're going to make Hagen red. We're doing survival. Now remember, if you've not seen Adventuria, this is not necessarily going to be a total how to play, but when we make a test, we are trying to make a test where whatever the value is for their stat, in this case, Hagen's survival is a 10 and Nirax's survival is an 8. We want to roll that number or under. A 1 is a critical success. A 20 is a critical fail, and any number above their value is a fail. So, for example, Nirax, if he rolled a 9, would be a fail because his body roll survival is an 8. Whereas if Hagen rolled a 9, since his survival is 10, that would be a success. And as a result, we have a table here that will tell us what we take. Right. So again, Nirax is purple, Hagen is red. And they're both, wow, horrible. There's a 17 and an 18. So, quite not good. All right, so what does that mean? Both fail. You can feel the long journey in your bones and you're not sure whether you'll be able to endure to the end. You lose 2. So we have a life wheel for each hero. This was another thing that you could purchase. There are cards to track this, kind of like in Hero Realms, right? They have the cards that you can turn sideways with the 10s and then the 1s. But they also sell these life wheels. The life wheels are the way to go. That's just my personal opinion. But they both lose 2 because they both failed. So they're down to 38. Lovely way to start. Okay, now you have reached Grottenfels and you ride through the dirty streets of the village past curious children and cackling poultry. Your destination is the Black Boar, an inn located a little outside of Grottenfels, whose innkeeper, the cloth merchant, knows from earlier travels. You're just leaving the last houses of the village behind you when the big 2-story inn appears on the right side of the road. The sun has set, and the glow from the window backlights the sign, but you can still make it out. A wild boar made of black wrought iron. The inn stands on a steep hill, and you can just see the cone of a tower peeking over the top. You hand over the mounts and payload to the servant, and are greeted warmly in the inn. After you've moved into your rooms and rested for a while, you head down to the tap room and sit down at the table to eat something and drink a glass of wine. The atmosphere is exuberant, but not all of the guests are cheerful. Some of them drink their wine with frustration and quiet whispers. You notice from a few scraps of conversation that the people's concern revolves around their Count Balder, who seems to have fallen into megalomania. I would be able to pronounce that one right, and not the other one that was a lot shorter earlier. He is at odds with at least 2 of his neighbors and claims that everyone is spying on him. But that doesn't worry you because you'll be gone tomorrow morning anyway. So you order another round of wine from the barmaid, Letty, and have a good time. 2 hours later, you're just about to go to your sleeping chambers when the door suddenly swings open with a loud clash. A nobleman with a sinister gaze steps into the lounge, accompanied by a large group of mercenaries, led by a guard in chainmail with a sword at his side. The clients scatter and throw themselves to the ground. Then they shout, "Grotho, Garrix, Grotho Grifax, Count of Grottenfels." The Count looks around, bored. Then his gaze falls on you, and his face darkens. "And what about you?" he thunders. "Don't you want to make the customary greeting?" Each hero makes a willpower roll. Alright, so, willpower. Willpower for Nirax is 12, and a 10 for Hagen. Alright, here we go. Oh my gosh. This is not, it's a 9 to 19 and a 17. That is horrendous. Horrendous. Alright, so they both failed. So on a failure, you have no idea how the greeting goes, nor are you in the mood to talk to the self-righteous Count. So then we have a couple things. If all players have achieved success or critical success, we didn't. If at least one player has suffered a failure or critical failure, well, we both did. That was fun. Apprehend these traitors, shouts the Count. I am surrounded by spies. Everyone is after my life, and they're just waiting for the right opportunity to catch me unawares. All your protestations of innocence are of no use, not even the assurance that you are not from the Grattan Fells and wouldn't know anything about local customs and traditions. Boulder Griefax does not accept any excuses, although you cannot expect any help. Also, you cannot expect any help from the local tavern guests. A dozen guards grab you, disarm you, take your valuables, and tie you up. Get those lowlifes out of my sight, Griefax screams. I can no longer bear the presence of this rabble. We shall sit in judgment over them tomorrow morning. Rough hands grab you and push you down the cellar stairs into the dimly lit wine cellar. Shortly afterwards, the door opens again. The guards shove in two more guests tied up from the tap room. We didn't laugh at his joke, one of them says downheartedly. The hours slowly run by. Your uncertain fate is draining your nerves and strength. The conversation with the locals doesn't help much, but maybe you can gather some information after all. All right, now, another test. Each hero makes a persuasion test. All right, let's see if we can do any better because, geez, we have done horrendously. So, persuasion. 12 for Nerax and a 10 for Hagen. Alright. Wow, okay, so that's a fail and a... my gosh. A fail and a critical fail. Okay, so... Negan, fail. A Nerax, sorry. Is a fail. The Count has fallen into madness. He randomly executes people he thinks are spies, and you are next. Critical fail. Wow. A critical failure. You find out nothing and start to accept your fate. Discard one fate point. If you don't have one, which neither one of us do, remove one from the middle of the table instead for the rest of the adventure. So, during setup, normally during an adventure, you have 2 of these fate points per player. Now, these are actual chips. Again, that was an upgrade from the Kickstarter. There are some tokens. So you have 4 that you could potentially earn, and these will allow you or your party members, you can spend them basically amongst each other to reroll. But you accumulate these when you fail on an attack, not a test. I don't believe. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me. Or you defeat a henchman when we get to combat. But this is saying that we remove one of these from the pool, the middle of the table. That's what that means. Permanently. So now, at most, will only be 3 that we could earn during the course of the game, which sucks. Carefully work your way through the underground structures. Some of the caves seem to be a natural origin, but most of the corridors and chambers... Wow, okay, never mind. I'm reading something wrong. As time passes, you hear the loud jubilations from the taproom. The Count and his henchmen are apparently having a good time. Torch on the wall burns down and goes out. You sit there in complete darkness. Suddenly, the door of the wine cellar opens. Letty enters with a big jug and a lantern in her hand. She is followed by a mercenary who cuts the 2 locals' bonds and pushes them out the door. You 2 were lucky today, he tells them. Then he turns to you. But you'll hang in the morning. Letty goes to a small wine barrel on the east wall and fills the jug. Then she accidentally drops a knife from her dress and whispers, "Through the big barrel in the middle." After they have left, one of you grabs the knife with tight hands and cuts their neighbor's bonds. A few seconds later, you're all free, although still locked up in the basement. So you take a closer look at the middle wine barrel of the cellar. Shake the lid vigorously. Suddenly, the lid gives way, and you, to your astonishment, open to the inside. Without difficulty, the first one of you climbs into the barrel and feels their way to the back end. The bottom is also movable and folds inwards. It's dark behind the barrel, but there's no going back. This is your only escape. It's pitch dark around you. You are exhausted and only equipped with your scantiest weapons, but the fear of an uncertain fate at dawn drives you forward into the darkness. Continue with the first dungeon exploration, as described on page 5. Use all dungeon cards marked level 1. Okay, so this is where I have actually already done a little bit of pre-setup, okay? So let's take a quick look at that. We'll move this back over here. Move this back over here for him. So this is the dungeon deck, okay? So what I did was there are, let me show you, where's, well, I haven't used it, so I'll show you like level 2, right? So you have these cards, right? Dungeon deck. There's several here, more than you're going to need. They're marked on the bottom corner. Oops, sorry. They're marked on the bottom corner. It says the level. There's going to be 4 levels as you go through the story. And so you basically build with this. You take 4 of these. You shuffle these all up. You take 4. Then you grab, not that, a random alarm card that you don't look at, and you place it on top of those 4, and then you deal out another 5, right, from your stack of dungeon cards. And that makes the dungeon deck. And so what we're going to do now is, and like I said, this has already been pre-created, we're going to go through this deck until we hit an alarm card. Okay, and then the alarm card is going to tell us which set of henchmen we're going to fight. Okay, so it's kind of like a story, and then you do this exploration, and then you do the combat, and then there's some, I think, some post-victory victory things, and then we move on to the next chapter, if you will. And again, the whole time we're doing this, because remember, we only have 10 super basic cards and then 10 of the kind of crappy dungeon cards like the rusty knives and things like that in here. We're going to be, through these dungeon cards and through other mechanisms, trying to get a better deck so that by the time we get all the way through the chapters to the final chapter of the story, we're at least half decent. But we have to survive through all that. So, having said that, we've gone through the story. That's about 30 minutes. So I think I'm going to wrap this particular video up. So we've got the story, and in the next video, we'll actually do the combat, do the dungeon exploration and combat, and you'll see how that works. Again, this is very different, but I really like, based on Adventuria, I just like the story aspect of Adventuria, but I do like the, this new dungeon exploration. You haven't seen it yet, but I do like kind of like a story within a story, and I kind of like the building aspect of the deck. You don't start with super great cards. Also, just one of the interesting things that I like about it too, it's a very minor thing, I suppose. But let's say Negan here, there are certain things that he may or may not be able to use, right? And as a result, there may be some cards that he can or can't use that are in the rewards or that DS pile. If those are in there, he can't use them, and they have to be used as endurance cards. So not only do they add a little bit of flavor, because remember in the story it said we didn't have anything really on us, right? We're just going to go with what few things we have on us and explore the dungeon, and we're just going to find what we find as we go. But you have cards in your deck even because it's random, right? You have a pretty big stack. Here's the leftover cards. Oh wait, is it these? No, it's not those. Where are they at? I might not have them over here. You have some card, that clog your deck, which I think is cool. So, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here at the table. I'm looking forward to this playthrough. I really, Rob Oren introduced me to this game, to Adventuria, the card game. So I do want to shout out to Rob, who I did get to meet at Gen Con, which was awesome. Gen Con was kind of that was the first big con for me. Really only the second con I've ever been to, at least in recent history in the last 20 years. And it was very, let's say it was very interesting. I'm glad I went to say that I went. I don't know that I would go back, to be honest. Just because I don't really care about seeing the newest games. It's neat to see that stuff, I suppose, but I buy the games to play the games, and I didn't feel like I got really a lot of chance to play in demo stuff because you had to have tickets, and it was just a big hassle, and I don't know. However, I will be going to Dice Tower East. Me and three of my friends in our gaming group. We call ourselves the board game losers. We have shirts. It's pretty funny. I don't know. Maybe one of these days that'll be something on the channel. But we're going to go to that. So if you are going to Dice Tower East, drop a comment. Let me know, and maybe we can hang out and play some games. We're going to be there. Should be there the whole time, so that should be fun. I'm really looking forward to that because, the focus of that is not the hype of a lot of stuff. There's not even going to be a lot of vendors there, really, which is okay because we're just going there to play games because that's what we like to do, and we're going to have plenty of time to do it, to play whatever we want, to learn whatever we want. So, I think that's all I've got. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. I'm the Board Game Roamer, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.